Well, anyways, gentlemen, you were talking to me about my background, but most people don't. In fact, I don't think anyone knows about your guys' background. So maybe if you want to talk about the individual aspect and how you started, just kind of like got to Foliko, and then really I guess the beginning aspects.
So how did all this start up? Is actually in 2014. Really
Really?
is where this started up. Yeah. So actually, back in the day, I was overseas with the U.S. government, Eastern Africa, right?
Okay.
Um, and doing a lot of work there with econometrics. So a lot of international relations kinds of work, U.S. State Department, and it was really down to the analysis of, well, whatever variables we could find, figuring out an
Mm.
endpoint, right? Came back to the States, realized that it was really the data analysis that I wanted to do. Um, Started going deeper and deeper into that. I started my first company. That was 2014. That was called Polect. And we amassed a whole bunch of data. The question was, could we take what everyone was saying and come out with polls and understand what everyone's sentiment, how they felt about a certain topic, and in fact derive voter likelihood from that,
Yeah.
right? The 2016 election was coming out, and the thought was, could we predict how people were going to vote? And you know what? When you call someone and you ask them, hey, who are you going to vote for?
Yeah.
They lie to you 150% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, it is always a lie.
Yeah.
Because first off, you can say whatever you feel the pollster wants you to say, and second off, there's a whole bunch of depth to what you're thinking that they're just not going to capture. So our
Right.
thought was, if we listen to people instead of talking at them, we'll be able to understand how they feel better. You know what the truth is, Jason? That worked better than I ever could have imagined. And we did that all off of social media, like
Yeah.
Twitter,
Oh wow.
LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. That company lived its course, sold that off, and I went and I did Microsoft Financial Services, right?
Mm.
Anyway, those two things combined and kind of had a baby. Thinking Microsoft Financial Services and getting deep into capital markets and realizing I know how to extract how people feel and what they say. Now I'm understanding markets by being the chief data scientist over there at Microsoft
Mhm.
Financial Services. How can I pull these together? And that's really the thrust out of which Foliko was born. Can we collect what everyone's saying, and instead of getting just how are you going to vote? Now the question is, how are you going to trade?
Mhm.
And if we can predict popular movements and motions and directions on how people are going to trade, that gives us an insight and advantage to be able to say where the market's going from there. And it wasn't really, we didn't hit that niche, hit our stride until we were bringing in folks like Tyler to be able to take this raw data, this massive data, and say, here's how we act on it. We now know what they're going to do. Let's now see what we're going to do. And when Tyler came in and started showing us, all right, here's A, B, and C, what you need to do, that's where the magic really came in.
Wow. So, what inspired you to I guess make Foliko? Was it you were already into trading? Was it more you were working on the financial end of things in Microsoft? What just you kind of you were in a shower one day or you had a dream? I guess what inspired you to creating Foliko?
Jason, it's a weird story.
Oh boy. Okay. Hey man.
No, so I happen to have a friend that had good connections in with the royal family of United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
And so we went out there and did some data science work. And they were looking at some of the stuff that we were doing. And they said, wow, you know what you could do with this? You could predict markets.
Yeah. Really. And then they're like,
So we hired a full team, started building out the data sets, that
Mhm.
concept line that we were talking about earlier of like, I know how to think what people are thinking and what they're going to do. And that's, Jason, I think that's an essential point. Everyone does market sentiment.
Mhm.
Everyone does sentiment analysis. Everyone says this is positive or negative, and this mishmash of like green or red and stuff like that. That, Jason, is useless. That's useless because what I need is directional action. I need to divide up how people are thinking and what they're going to do in terms of earnings power, in terms of reputation, in terms of management. I need to split this up
Right.
and understand a company down to its details and its bones. And that idea really came out of a lot of that work that we were doing internationally and then applying that to the financial space. So when did I get into trading? I went and I visited NASDAQ and was able to be there for an opening bell day and speaking with a lot of their folks and
That's
getting some
cool.
thoughts and feeling the passion and excitement there. And I thought, you know what, this is going to be a good fit.
Hmm.
And that's really we started applying these things in a big way.
Talking timeline, was that, you said, was it 2018, 2019 you guys started creating Foliko? How long ago was that?
I was in UAE summer of 2017. It was a month after my son was born.
Really?
My wife reminds me of that fact very often.
Oh, really? Nice.
She's got a 1-month-old, and I'm off across the world. But no, 2017 was where those roots really started getting planted. Visiting NASDAQ was 2018. Finding a lot of those core business partners to really shape this out, get the data collected, and really pushing forward, hiring a big group of people. That all started 2018.
Okay.
These models and algorithms really took shape around the end of that year. We got funding for our company in 2020. So when COVID really started going and getting deep and everyone was isolated, that's where we got funding and we were able to hone in and develop the framework of the company and all the algorithms. And that leads us to where we are today.
Cool. Man, what would you say, I guess, in that process of, well, first of all, out of Foliko, and what was the first one you guys did with the voting?
Collect.
Well, so of the two, what one would you say was harder to do? Because when you're dealing with financial aspect, and then when you're dealing with political opinions, those are pretty potent subjects you picked there, man. Nothing, no like, hey, favorite flavor of cupcake or anything. None of that. Just more of the heavy duty stuff.
So, Collect was by far harder.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, Jason, I didn't believe
Yeah.
in achieving success. Doing work with politicians, bless them for doing the job. I don't harbor hate for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I did not like watching the sausage get made. And
No.
I felt almost anti-inspirational. The further I got into that, the further I interacted with customers, the more I was like, I don't like doing
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we picked up a lot more B2B clients on that. We kind of pivoted away from the political space, especially because in the political space, you make money once every 4 years.
Right.
And then you've got to survive on that big jackpot. You get some midterm elections 2 years in, but then in between that, you're really in lean years, right?
Right.
And so the business model was harder. But when it comes to finance, every day that we're making these predictions, like this last week, we had some phenomenal calls, right, Tyler? Like we came in, UNH, phenomenal, JPM, phenomenal, KAG, excellent. You get this, and it's the building excitement and momentum. When I had a huge win, I'll tell you one turning point for me on the Collect thing. We were working with a politician, and we said, hey, here's the data, here's how we see the voters and stuff like that, but we know your positions are contrary to this, so that's fine. Stick with your positions, you'll be okay. And they said, no, I'll change all my positions. It's cool. I'll go with the data.
Oh,
and I'm
man.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Again, anti-inspirational moments versus this week, you see that success, and you see, like, this is just the stuff that motivates me, and you get more energized, not less.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I could not. I tell you, man, that was one of the coolest things of getting into trading was I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to interact with anyone. I don't need to, talk to customers. I'm making money simply by sitting at my desk, and just I enjoyed that. Not that I was, I didn't enjoy interacting with people, but like you said, like the political atmosphere, and it's nothing against them, but that's just it's such a people, you have to have like a taste for it, I guess. And watching the sausage get made, I like that's a good reference. Yeah, no, I tell you, I couldn't do it. But now understanding the business model, that is very hard. Like because you are super busy every 4 years, like you said, and then you're kind of probably working on your software and whatnot. But what was that?
One thing you said that really resonates with me is you have the data and you're making the call.
Yeah.
You're not going out there and trying to sell stuff. If you're right, you're right. If you know what you're doing, that competence shines through. That data, that knowledge, that work that you're doing, the academy that you teach, you know what you're doing, that's going to shine through. I love that about this industry. I've been doing data science and AI for Microsoft for 5 years, their chief data scientist capacity there. And sometimes you'll make predictions about something. You won't know if you're right for 2 or 3 years. And that kind of feedback is tough to work with in the market.
Right.
You know if you're wrong tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, in our case, we know if we're wrong in one candle and on the 1 minute time frame. So, yeah, no, I get it, and that's kind of the coolest thing about having the Foliko software. It's the same exact analogy you just said. Like you have the data, it's the decision's yours if you want to, act on it. And for me, it was: do I also believe, in the charts, or do I also believe in the sector is going to go down or go up? For example, Foliko, when I first opened it, was expecting the resort and entertainment center to get hit, the cruise lines, the car and the automotive industry, such as like Carvana and stuff. So I also had the same feeling of like that's what I saw in the market, that's what I saw in the charts, and what better way to have an AI software back up your decision making? And the coolest thing about that, I think, and it's not so you hold until it hits a certain price target or something like that, because nothing's ever 100%. But I think the coolest part is like the confidence you have within that, and the stress that's relieved of like, oh, like someone else also or something else also says that this stock is going to go down or up. So the confidence I had in my swings of holding them through the choppy areas, I'm sure glad I did, because had I not, I would not have made nearly the amount of money I did this week. Carnival Cruise Lines, 25% dip. MLCO, big short, still holding on to it, 25 to 30% correction. And then Carvana, another 15 to 20% correction. So it's kind of the same thing I see with Foliko, like you're talking about, is the data's yours, but ultimately the choice is yours as well. Nothing's forcing you to take that decision.
Jason, one of the best, or some of the best moments we've had is when we start debating with our own data. Like, for example, this last week, Tyler, do you recall when we saw banks' earnings projections really tanking this week? What was the big thought? The big thought was they've already lost so much. Are we really going to shorten the hole, right? That was your thought, right?
Speculation of that. And you had told me, we had the worst set of bank earnings forecasts that I think you've seen in the lifetime of these models.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, then you're able to take our data and put it into context and say, there's other parts to your framework, right? It sounds like you do technical analysis. I do have a technical component. So you're looking for location to confirm, what the data says. Is this a good short in this spot? I kind of think about our 6 health factors as 6 more technical indicators, if you will.
Right.
It's basically like RSI on steroids, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Everything except PFG.
Yeah.
Don't touch it.
No. Yeah, I saw you guys. So the banks, unfortunately for me, because I don't do options, the percent gain wasn't quite there for me. So I didn't touch it. However, I did see it was on the watch list, and I also saw how bad JP missed. Right, it was pretty big time miss on their aspect.
Usually do that, which I thought was interesting. They don't swing and a miss, generally speaking. So the fact that we were able to pick something up there, to me, is and it definitely encouraging.
Right. Yeah. No. And I think the cool thing about me is since I've been working with it, the more I'm working with the scanners and the software, the more I guess trust it and believe in it. The first time I'm like, I know my opinion, but this thing could be just telling me anything. You know what I mean? It could have one article on Reddit and say, oh, it's expected to do worse. But it is really cool to see that, like, time in and time out. I know I'm ready. I'm kind of waiting for the day that it misses, and it's been several weeks now that I've been using it, and no miss here. But that leads me to kind of my next question is, what do you find with you guys, but also what do you find with your customers is the number one thing that your software helps traders with?
I mean, I don't think it's just one thing. That's what's interesting is, in my opinion, this thing is a great swing trade.
Right.
But it can also help inform day trading decisions. It can also help, if you're a value investor and you're looking to, pick bottoms after 80% drawdowns for a 1 to 3 year hold. Our health factors are helpful in figuring out, pretty much when all the bad news is priced in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's one best way to use our data. I think depending on your framework and your investment strategy, there are different things for you and different ways to trade it and signals, but you just have to decide what your curiosity is.
Okay. So, what do you guys see that your, I guess, customers or Foliko users use the most? Is there any way that you guys can quantify that, or have you kind of thought about quantifying it?
I will say just one thing on this real quick is that when someone first gets access to Foliko, you land on that homepage, and what do you see on the homepage? You see the top three and the bottom three.
Oh no! I thought you're going with the tutorial, like first. I was like, oh, you. But okay, yeah, the top three and the bottom three.
If possible, right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that was a great shoot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, the thing that people really, once they get past me, right?
Yeah.
We need to have them there for legal reasons. And
I haven't gotten past you. I just keep refreshing the video. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. So you see there the top three and the bottom three of the day, right?
Yeah.
I think those are important. I think those are good to have there because it shows me ideas a lot, especially on the sector piece too. That sector homepage piece is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of my biggest fears is people using that page, seeing the top and bottom three, submitting those trades and going home.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how you should use Foliko. I really don't.
Absolutely
because
not.
you'll notice in that top three, there's often green and red. I call it the Christmas section.
Yeah.
Because it's green and red all over the place, right? And I think of these models as counselors. And when 7 of your counselors, because it's 7, all the way from 1 day to 12 weeks, right? 1 day, 1 week, everything like that. Each of them are telling me something. And if 2 of them or 3 of them are telling me sell and 4 of them are telling me buy, I'm not going to trade on that. Or I'm going to do my research and make sure that that trade is secure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of thing, if someone comes in, they don't want to do additional research. They don't want to dig in and dive into the features, do some sector analysis, understand where this positivity or negativity is going. For example, and I'll give one concrete example. Sometimes your health scores can bottom out and be -1, right? Now here's the question. Does that mean that the stock is about to plummet, or does that mean we're at a bottom? And oftentimes when you're hovering at that -1 level, usually that means that we bottomed.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't going to go any further negative, and now we're ready to start pumping,
right. Yeah.
It's that kind of nuance that I think, A, is really going to help your returns. But B, you've got to get in and use to Foliko a little bit. Don't just trade that homepage.
Definitely.
Explore a little.
That and another thing I think traders need to realize is there's a reason there's a time restriction or time constraint like the one through the 12-week period. Because if your intention is a 1-week hold, but it's telling you it's projected to do bad over 12 weeks, you need to understand that that's not going to then reflect it's going to do bad the first week. You know what I mean? There's oftentimes where you'll even see on the homepage where Foliko even says it'll probably in the next 30 days continue to go higher, but over the next 12 weeks, the overall projection is indeed lower. So for me, it's like I talked about, I have to find a stock that the best way I found using Foliko, and these are my 2 favorite things thus far using it, is one, if I have a conviction on something, I then back it with Foliko. Foliko isn't my conviction. You know what I mean? That's where a lot of people can kind of get mixed up. But the second thing is the sector analysis. I think is absolutely great for the day trading side of things because so for me, I trade small cap, penny stocks, and Foliko is more the mid to large cap, right? I assume there's not a ton of like small cap stuff on there yet, but for me, the sector analysis is huge, and the main reason is in the small cap sector, sympathy momentum is huge. In February, we saw, and I wish I had Foliko in the beginning of the year, I'm sure it was saying that the energy sector is expected to go, it's expected to boom. And then what did we see? We saw all these sympathy momentum plays, go through the roof. And I just man, I wish I knew that sector was expecting to pop before it actually did. And that's the thing I really like, and that's what I actually look at most mornings is what is the next hot sector potentially going to be, and kind of keeping track of that. And that's kind of my favorite thing.
Well, and Jason, this is why I'm so excited about our partnership too, because it seems to me Foliko is a fantastic Ferrari, but it needs a fantastic driver,
Yeah.
To me, we're an automobile manufacturing at Foliko with a top-notch racing school, and that's our partnership. To me,
Right.
that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
And unless you get that good driver with that good engine together,
Yeah.
it's not going to be optimal. And that's why I think our partnership is powerful.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
when you came in, it was interesting some of the comments that I was hearing from the way you were looking at this, the way you were trading. Instantly, I knew this is going to be a good fit because you weren't one of those homepage folks.
Yeah.
You were one of those like this is my conviction, this is my theory, and I'm going to use this data in order to strengthen.
Mhm.
And I think that's powerful.
Correct. Yeah. No, I've been loving it, and when you guys did approach me, we'll talk about this real quick before we move on. I was talking to Nathan, and I'm like, listen, man, like I just want to be honest. I am not into partnerships really because there's especially with some scanners, some kid can hook up a little code and it can pull up the top gappers, if you will, or something like that. And I'm like, man, like I'm not sure about the in-depthness, but then he gave me the login code, and I was like, holy shit. I think he gave it to 5 of us, and I'm like, what doesn't this thing do? And I was super excited it's almost like I don't know, it was refreshing to me to see that I think the problem was I didn't believe there was software out there, and how could anyone else believe that without seeing it first? You know what I mean? But yeah, I want to pull up later after this the record we've had the last 3 weeks and the win percentage we've had because I've been tracking it. And where is it here? I have one account thus far that I've only used with Foliko picks and I think 2-day trades from outside of Foliko. And I wanted to show you guys the growth. I pulled the broker statements. I'll do it later. Anyway, do you guys have any questions for me or anything that you kind of wanted to discuss? I'm trying not to be as rapid fire on the questions, more along the lines of just more open-endedness.
I'm loving the conversation. This is wonderful. Would you at any point have an interest in appearing on our YouTube Foliko live show?
Oh, go for it, man. I'm there. Just let me know.
Cool. Tyler's out next week, so we got to do a whole bunch of pre-records. But
Yeah.
the week after, I'd love to have you on then.
Cool. No, I'd love to be on. Tyler, how did you kind of get into all this, man?
So it's funny because I kind of had an initial conversation with Nate, like you did, where if you've ever seen the movie Limitless, do you remember where he's with the De Niro character and he says, oh, you have delusions of grandeur, and he says, no, I have a recipe.
No.
And that was like to me like my conversation with Nate. I was like, all right, yeah, fine, sure. Because like my opinion is always like, as a now private investor, like if you were any good, I would have found you. You know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly.
Always,
that was the same exact thing I was thinking of.
So, I came up in the sales and trading program on the sell side at RBS, now NatWest Markets. I was an interest rate strategist there with a focus on the front end of the curve. So like Eurodollars, Fed funds contracts, the Fed, OIS swaps is kind of where I live. From there, I moved to the buy side and I traded govies and I traded the accompanying FX. I traded, global govies, EM, G10, the whole gambit. From there, I launched my own fund. And while I learned a bunch of really important lessons, one of them was it's so expensive to run a fund. If you're going to trade, 60, 70% your own money, you should just do it in a, family office or a private structure because the cost of operating a 3C1 or 3C7 fund is just unbelievable.
What would some of those costs be, if you don't mind kind of going into that?
You need an auditor, you need an admin, you need a prime broker, you need ungodly amounts of legal assistance, forming all the entities, forming the agreements, and it's not 20% of that business is the investing part, 80% is the operational, the marketing, the all that other stuff. And especially if you're just by yourself, basically, prop trading, that's tough.
Yeah.
So, I moved on from there to, I invest privately. I trade an equity options account. And then I'm also involved in a bunch of other, private deals, some warehouse stuff, some biotech stuff.
Nice. Oh,
But
nice.
I mean, basically, I'm a private trader who had a mutual friend of Nathan's, who's a good friend of mine as well. He introduced me to Travis, and
Yeah.
basically, I am the markets part of the brain, and he is the data science part of the brain, and it's been a very effective partnership because when you put the both sides together, I think you get something very powerful.
Yeah.
The reason I'm here is, most financial, kind of outfits start with, okay, we want to beat the market, and they come out with some goal seeked nonsense that explains all of the past and none of the future. This was actually the complete opposite. I mean, Travis built some AI, and his the people he was working for were like, oh, by the way, you can predict the market. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm excited about it. Is this was not meant to be a market predicting, device. It just happens to do so.
Yeah.
And that is why, I came over and I'm now the head of research, because I really believe in what we have here. And, I can't say that's always been the case. Initially I'm like, yeah, sure, right, right. But,
Yeah.
what we have, has been pretty powerful. If you go through our YouTube channel for the last month, some of those calls have been pretty spooky. And it had nothing to do with, me or Travis really. It was just, the model was able to point out. I
Right.
mean, we called literally, like, I think to the penny the high end, for example.
Really.
Um, so it's been, I'm not impressed by much, and I'm continuously impressed
Yeah.
by what we have here.
Yeah. One was the MU. You guys projected MU to do terrible in earnings, right? And I'm pretty sure it missed it by like 100 million or something like pretty ridiculous.
Max excursion down was about 7% if we
Yeah.
had just taken
Yeah.
that trade. So, pretty good. And I was glad, because that was the first time I had met you, and Nate's like, oh,
Yeah.
make a call, make a call. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So make a call, man. I'm like, oh boy. Well, we were all watching it just out of curiosity. Like, all right, let's see what this is all about, man. And then just MU flushed 10% from $55 to $50 a share, and almost instantly.
Right.
But yeah. So you just kind of you're talking. You went like private trading mode. Decided not to go the fund route. But that's kind of like Foliko's MO, right? You guys don't want this to be in the hands of massive fund managers. You want this to be in the hands of retail traders, because on the page it talks about the power of hedge funds, I guess, at the retail trading fingertips. So I guess kind of talk to me like, is that just something from past experience where you guys are like, screw this, we don't want to let the little guy out? Yeah, I guess talk to me there.
I mean,
So,
I think, you go ahead.
oh, let me throw something in on the genesis of why retail, and then Tyler, yeah, I'd love to hear on that too. But look, Jason, when we came out with these models, we didn't have any kind of front end. We just had data coming out,
Mm-hmm.
data coming out of a system, and we were able to back test our models, and the back test performance was beautiful. And so, first thought we had is the same first thought that everyone would have. I'm going to go and sell this on Wall Street and go retire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like go print some checks, and then I'm going to go buy an island real quick. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we go and we shop this around Wall Street, and it was right around when COVID was getting rough, right? And right around when we closed that seed funding. And we kept finding the same story over and over and over again. This is so cool. Right now, what we're looking for is to really get deep into ESG. So we're going to use this tool in order to develop our ESG trades. Like, wait a minute, ESG? What are you talking about? Like, yeah, news. So it's ESG. I'm like, no. We're not talking about ESG. We're talking about predicting earnings. We're talking about predicting stock price movements. We're talking about this and that. And they were so stuck on this corporate, oh, we've been tasked to go improve our ESG models.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to go plug this in. The other one that we got was this large company. I'm not going to say names here. In fact, contractually, I don't think I can. But it's a large company that comes in and says, yeah, we'll get it funded. This will be great. You need a track record. In about 2 years, we'll be able to build you up to be, 100, 200, $300 million fund. But first, you got to start with 6 million. So we got this offer of 6 million. Go run it. Get this money pumping. Get it good. 6 months, 1 year, we'll reevaluate. Well, do you know how much money you make on managing $6 million of money? Not nearly enough to cover the cost that Tyler was talking about. Not nearly enough. You can blow out and make them millions of dollars, and you're bringing home like next to nothing. We couldn't cover our costs, right? And over and over and over again, we started to realize this industry is just trying to take us apart. Like they're just trying to sell us for parts. They've identified that we have something. They'll locate in on one specific piece that's going to push their corporate objectives, and then everything else is dead.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have this vision that we're able to take intended action from around the world and develop some really cool stuff. The first of which, the beachhead, is investing, but we have large ambitions to take this information, this knowledge, this AI, and broaden it out to something huge. And we knew that we would never get there if we went the Wall Street way, if we went the institutional way. And that's when we started giving more thought to the retail. And the more we got into the retail, the more we started getting infected with that retail energy. The more we realized these are the people that deserve this outcome. These are the people that are willing to take a good idea and push it forward. These are the people we want to see succeed. And so, yes, we had the route to go institutional, and we had the route to go retail. And when we decided to go retail, pushing the partnership with Tyler and then integrating Tyler completely into who we were was a key part of that. And I think I could not love that decision more than where we've been able to take it. Tyler, sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead, buddy. What were you saying?
I mean, so I think it's two different things. One is our data by itself is institutional quality data. I mean, Travis and his team could go work at, these institutions and, do quite well. They'd plug them in on the desk as the data scientists, and off they go. So this is, professional level, institutional level data. And that's put into the hands of retail investors. But that doesn't mean, for example, I keep going back to the YouTube. I think, Travis and I in the morning sometimes do some very interesting quantitative work on, we take our model output and then we perform a second layer of analysis on it, for example. So that's where it starts to change. Is yes, we do give institutional level data to retail. As I understand it, we're the only ones producing things at this level. But that doesn't mean it can't be grossed up with some additional analysis, like what we did on oil recently. So I don't think it's fair to just call it a retail product. I would say we are the first ones to offer something institutional level to retail. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that for sure. That in through that process, I guess initially, I'm sure you guys are like, man, I wish it would have been just as easy as we'll sell it to the first fund for a big check and buy an island like you talked about. But now it's rather interesting because now the little fish can now have access to I guess bigger gains than what an institutional investment would give them. We had a gentleman that come in our Discord that he's inheriting some money, and he was talking to some funds to properly allocate it, and they were saying the standard, we'll give you 6.5-7% a year, and he's like, that's not good enough. We're not beating hyperinflation at that rate. And so for him to be able to now have the tools and the abilities to outperform, matter of fact, blow out of the water 7%, that's really cool. But
6 or 7% a year, maybe you won't lose money.
Yeah.
Maybe next year you'll be as rich as you are right now. Hopefully.
Yeah, that is completely ridiculous. But I guess to each his own. But I guess kind of to wrap things up, gentlemen, what would you say? And don't give away everything, because we do want to, I guess, save some of the awesome future stuff for for ProfitCon here in September. But what would you say is some of the future things Foliko and users in Foliko can get excited about and look for?
Yeah. So our roadmap, there's a number of things. And I think that we've got some really exciting announcements coming there at the convention. So we're really excited about that. We're coming with our A game there to show some people some really unique stuff. There are things that no one's seen yet before in Cinerai, in Foliko. So we're excited for that. But to give a teaser, look, we have been really going deep on what these health scores mean in terms of earnings, right? And so every Monday we're giving a whole bunch of call outs for earnings of the week, like where we're expecting EPS to be at and things like that. we're going to be syndicating that model and integrating that in with Foliko itself. So you're going to have an extra set of features on EPS and those predictions. That's going to be right there within the application. And then once you integrate that in with the rest of predictions there in Foliko, I think you're going to end up with something magic. Now, that's one of the exciting announcements we have coming up. There's a whole bunch more to come. Like you said, I don't want to give it all away, but our roadmap is really exciting and really looking forward to announcing a lot of these things there in the convention.
That's awesome, man. I am so pumped. I'm so excited that you guys actually agreed to be able to come down. We have some awesome guest speakers lined up. It'll be a lot of fun. But you guys talk a lot about earnings, and would you say, in your opinion, and personally, is that one of your, if not your favorite side of Foliko? Or maybe that you use more on a day-to-day basis, because you guys do mention earnings a lot. And for me, I'm not an earnings player. I don't trade earnings. But I have seen the Foliko earnings, magician. I don't know who the magician is, if it's Nathan or that lovely bench he got that he's obsessed with. First of all, has he sent you pictures of that dang bench that he has outside of his house, that picnic bench? Oh my gosh, man. Anyway, no, I think it's cool, but I was like, yeah, send me a picture of you sitting on it. He sent me 30 different angles of the same bench he got. He's like, you got to get one, man. I'm like, all right, maybe. He's funny, man. Yeah, I'll just send it to you guys. But anyway, yeah, no. So would you say earnings is probably the daily thing you guys use the most? Or is it just because it's kind of season right now?
I mean, because it works.
Yeah.
We're not a financial institution, all those disclaimers, but I'm not an earnings player either, never was. But I kept going through our data, and there are repeatable, pretty dependable patterns that if you see the day of earnings, you actually can expect a snap either higher or lower. So I've been, that's something I'm developing on a systematic basis, where every time one of these shows up, we trade it, right? It's just a trading system. It drives itself. It's got no human input, basically.
Right.
Just purely taking the Foliko output and making trades. So that's why I talk about it the most, is because I think, it's pretty spooky. This week, one of the signals was CAG minus 9%, right? It just keeps happening. MU down 7%. Netflix, down a bajillion. Even Kingsoft, Chinese tech stocks have been terrible.
Yeah.
But we were long Kingsoft and it exploded on earnings and went back down. So, there was still a nice 25% trade to take out there before the dump. So that's why I talk about earnings the most, because in terms of a systematic approach, I mean, we're almost already there on Foliko earnings and the earnings factor. So that's the one I'm most excited about.
Yeah. Awesome.
Jason, it makes me think of, you ever heard of that parable of the 6 blind men that go up and each of them are asked to feel an object, and the first one comes back and says it's a tree, next one it's a snake, next one it's a spear. They were all feeling different parts of an elephant. I think, and it reflected where they were at and what their personal philosophies were. To me, I think Foliko oftentimes is a mirror, and it shows you what kind of trader you are. You're in this sea of data, and you get to go deep on the value play. If you want to go into the news articles and deep into why is reputation trending down while at the same time management is going up, what does that mean? What is the social contract between the management and the employees? What does that mean? Are you long term? Are you short term? Are you trying to go sector plays? Really, Jason, I think you're going to find the strength where you stand in this tool, and that's what I think is really exciting. And what we found is earnings is one of the most exciting plays we've done over the past few months. But I mean, we're Lewis and Clark, and we're just crossing the Mississippi.
Yeah.
There's a lot to find out here.
Yeah. No, it's true. Very true. Well, anyway, gentlemen, I do appreciate your time here today. Hopefully, if you guys are looking for this, it'll be on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, rather, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, all the fancy ones. But I do have Nathan as the desired person to direct message in our Discord if there's any questions from profit chaser students that would like to utilize Foliko. And so for those of you listening, all you have to do is head over to our Discord, go to Best Scanner, and then from there just DM Foliko support.
Right. Well, Jason, it's been wonderful joining you. Thank you so much for the time. and we're really looking forward to interacting with Profit Chasers. This is a fantastic partnership. We're looking forward to the convention. We'll be there.